The 2025 Four Nations Face-Off just changed hockey forever. It featured four of the best hockey nations battling in a best-on-best tournament, something we haven't seen in almost 10 years, which made for some of the most intense games we have ever seen as hockey fans. Players became national heroes, while others were labeled as frauds by their home country. We saw rivalries as old as hockey itself go further than ever before. Legacies were made, reputations were restored, and hockey got more recognition than it ever has. This was everything but a lazy all-star replacement. It had players ripping their hearts out of their chest and leaving it all on the ice, all for national pride, and it deserves a deep dive. The hype for the Four Nations tournament was astronomical. Hockey fans had been deprived of national best-on-best play ever since the World Cup of Hockey back in 2016. Now, we were blessed with some of the most stacked international rosters we have ever seen put on the ice. The stakes could not have been any higher heading into the tournament. Sweden and Finland's hockey rivalry is like a classic sibling feud. Sweden, the so-called big brother, has historically been the more dominant force, while Finland, the scrappy underdog, is always looking to prove they belong at the top. But it's going to be hard for them this tournament because they have the weakest team among the four countries by far. With the defense of a bottom 10 NHL team, it'll be hard for them to compete, especially against the top dogs Canada and the United States, who are big rivals themselves, and it only grows every year as the United States inches closer and closer to claiming hockey supremacy. For decades, Canada held the title as the undisputed hockey powerhouse, but with the rise of American talent, the gap has narrowed, and if recent history is any indication, the tides may be turning. Team USA has dominated the World Juniors, winning back-to-back gold medals in 2024 and 2025, and with this success, some American fans have been making the bold claim that hockey is America's sport now. And that is absolute blasphemy to the Canadians who have built their national identity around the game, so the idea of losing their hockey throne to their southern neighbors is completely unthinkable. And the rivalry is starting to come outside the game, mostly because of President Trump's recent actions. With the political feud going on between Canada and the United States, the Americans now want to claim Canada as the 51st state, and vice versa with the states becoming the 11th province. Before the tournament even started, anthems were getting booed at games between Canadian and American teams, which served as a reminder that this is more than just a hockey game, it's a battle for pride and bragging rights. And those boos carried right into Team USA's first game of the tournament, but before that, the home fans in Montreal had plenty to celebrate after Canada's OT win over Sweden, a game that set the tone for the entire tournament. Coming in, no one really knew what to expect. Would this feel like a low-effort all-star game replacement, or would it be a hard-fought battle for national pride? Well, it didn't take long to get our answer. Canada looked like they had the game wrapped up early when McKinnon buried a power play goal, assisted by none other than Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid just 56 seconds into the game. But the Swedes clawed back from a 3-1 deficit in the third period, forcing overtime and proving that this tournament was going to be anything but an exhibition. The overtime was 10 minutes of 3-on-3 hockey, a rule that the NHL should definitely adopt, and it took Mitch Marner 6 minutes to skate in with speed and end the game, giving Canada an expected but big win. This game already exceeded expectations for the tournament, as it drew in 4.1 million viewers, which crushed regular season numbers. And it was the same thing for the United States-Finland game the next day that drew 3.4 million viewers. Now, that is almost a million less than the Canada game, but that's mostly because it was a complete blowout. Although it stayed tight for a while, the floodgates opened and the Tkachuk brothers put on a show with a combined 4 goals and 5 points while also laying the body. And with Canada and the United States both winning, this set the stage for what would become one of the best hockey games to ever be played. USA, Canada, in the Bell Center. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was watching from the stands, and the home crowd wasted no time settling the tone, showering the US national anthem with boos. And as much as these two countries hate each other right now, the players may hate each other more, as just 2 seconds into the game, Brandon Hagel and Matthew Tkachuk dropped the gloves and squared off at center ice. Doesn't matter who won the fight, the crowd was buzzing. Once things settled down, the puck dropped again, just for Matthew's brother Brady to square off with Sam Bennett. Again, it doesn't really matter who won, it's really just the principle of it. Cheers were raining down from the Bell Center. Brady and Matthew dapped each other up as they sat in the box together, making their dad proud. Then just 6 seconds later, JT Miller dropped his gloves and just waited for someone to fight with. Parayko jumped on the chance and kind of manhandled Miller, making him pop his own bucket off, but I guess that's what happens when you go with someone half a foot taller than you. 9 seconds in the game, and there was already half a game's worth of penalty minutes. After all the chaos ensued, there was finally some hockey to be played, but that doesn't really mean the energy left. These two teams were absolutely fired up, and so was Montreal when McDavid scored on an absolute beauty to open the scoring 5 minutes into the game. He did what he does best and just blew by the American defense, points, putting the home country up by 1. USA stayed intense, laying the body and evening the score thanks to a sneaky shot by Jake Gensel beating Jordan Binnington. There were some concerns about Binnington in net, as there were far better options out there, but he did come up with big saves at some points in this tournament, especially on this power play that the Americans got following their goal. And as good as Binnington was, Hellebuck was equally as good, if not better. And this helped the Americans respond with a goal from Dylan Larkin, putting them up 2-1. Canada pushed until the very end, but an empty net goal from Jake Gensel sealed the deal, clinching a spot in the Four Nations Championship game for the United States. And people were watching, a lot of people. The game pulled in an average of 4.4 million viewers and peaked at 5.2 million, making it the most watched non-Stanley Cup final hockey broadcast since 2019. But it was really after the game where you saw the attention that this game actually gave hockey. Google searches for hockey spiked higher than they've been in a while. People who have never gave hockey a chance were now drawn in and invested. I mean, we even had Flight reacting and giving his analysis.
You know what I'm saying? Backwards skating and then doing a hockey puck like these. Yeah, I was kind of cold.
This tilt between the United States and Canada did more for the game of hockey than every All-Star game combined. And it was the perfect time for people to tune in, because going into the final day of the round robin, there was still a lot to play for. Every team would have had a shot to make the final, but the little brother upset their big brother 4-3 in overtime thanks to Mikael Granlund knocking Sweden out of the tournament. This was a huge win for Finland, as they still had a chance to make the final, but more importantly, they were now the big brother according to Patrick Laine. For Canada, all they had to do to clinch a spot in the final was beat Finland in regulation, which for them should not be a problem. And it really wasn't. They had a 4-0 lead with just 6 minutes to play, and all they had to do was shut down on defense.
Score!
Okay, that's just one. They still need 3 more.
Out of trouble by Point, and then Granlund scores!
Alright, 2 more.
Out in front from Barkov, shot, score! Granlund again!
Okay, now they should be getting nervous.
Hit on Granlund, at center by Crosby, shoots to the empty net, and scores!
Phew. Canada was that close to being on the wrong side of hockey history, but they prevailed, and everyone will just remember as a 5-3 regulation win. The last game of the round robin was USA vs Sweden, which was pretty much a meaningless game. The finals were already set as America vs Canada, but the game was still hard fought and intense. Sweden ended up winning, snapping Team USA's undefeated streak, but it was too little too late. Their tournament was already over, and they were heading home. All eyes were now on the rematch of the game that broke the internet, USA vs Canada. In case you guys forgot, these teams can't stand each other, and things got even crazier since the last time they played. After the circus of a game in the round robin, Hagel came out and criticized the Americans for having a group chat talking about the fights by saying that Canada was playing for their flag, not for the cameras. Matthew Tkachuk then came back saying, well, maybe they just don't like each other as much as we do. With both teams barking at each other, the tensions were at an all-time high. For Canada, it's simple. Get pucks past Connor Hellebuck, which is easier said than done. He had been ridiculous all tournament, and if he plays like he did last game, Canada might be in trouble. They'll need Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby to show up in a big way, and probably some redemption from Jordan Binnington, whose spot in net has been questioned from the start. On the US side, they've got all the momentum in the world, and they know it. Jake Gensel has been clutch, and the Tkachuk brothers are built for chaos, and their defense has been sneaky good at shutting down Canada's top guns. They'll need to keep the same energy and, most importantly, stay out of the box, because handling Canada's power plays is a recipe for disaster. So now, it's all set up. The biggest game between these two in years. The intensity is through the roof. The stakes could not be any higher, and both teams hate the idea of losing to one another. The atmosphere was electric in TD Garden. The puck dropped, and Canada got started early with a goal from none other than Nathan MacKinnon, who had been on fire all tournament. Then about 10 minutes later, the American hero Brady Tkachuk was on the doorstep to tie things at 1 heading into the second period. The Americans were first to score in the second period, and it was none other than Jake Sanderson. Before the game, Americans were praying for this man to be injured just so Quinn Hughes could come in as an injury replacement, but instead, he showed them why he was on the team, giving USA a 2-1 lead. Then Canada came right back with a nice shot from Sam Bennett, going upstairs on Hellebuck, and it's now tied at 2 going into the third period. They traded chances in the third, but no one would budge, and the game needed overtime, because why wouldn't it? The entire tournament, all the drama, all the fights, all the trash talk, it all came down to this. USA versus Canada, sudden death, 1 goal away from glory. In just 3 minutes into the extra period, Austin Matthews, who hadn't scored all tournament, had the game on his stick and got robbed by Binnington. Then Tkachuk was robbed. Then Matthews was robbed again. All the goaltending criticisms and the backlash that Binnington had faced is out the window now, because if it weren't for him, the game would have been over. Canada got their momentum back and moved back the other way, and you could not have scripted what happened next any better.
Off the drop,